Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, let's see how to set up WordPress on Contabo. If you have a Contabo VPS or you're thinking of getting a Contabo VPS to host WordPress, this is the video for you. You're going to see how you can host multiple WordPress websites on Contabo. Contabo is one of the most affordable VPSs. If you're looking for a VPS, you can find any type of VPS you're looking for. Cloud VPS, Cloud VDS, these are with dedicated resources. But when you're getting started, you can just get started with the Cloud VPS. So let's click on Cloud VPS and see the options that you can get. So here as well, you can get different types of VPSs. Whatever you're looking for, make sure you select the right one for your use case. In this example, when you're getting started, depending on the number of websites that you want to host, you can just get started with either this or this. I already have a Contabo server, but if you don't, you can just click there on configure. Let's do this as an example. And if you want to go with that, you can go with that. But you know what? Let me just say I want to upgrade to VPS 20. So I'll click there. The next step is to configure your VPS. So if you pay monthly, that will be the price. If you pay annually, that is the price, and you'll save $19 per year. So let's say you go with the monthly pricing, and you can also get 200 GB of SSD, or you can go with NVMe. If you're hosting WordPress, go with NVMe. And then I'm going to use Ubuntu 24.04 in this example. So just stick with me and go with Ubuntu 24.04 as well. And then if you want to enable automatic backups, which is something I definitely recommend, you can go ahead and enable automatic backups, because one day your server might get hacked and the thing that will save you will be your backups. So always make sure you have a backup. Even if you see that nothing has happened and you've had a backup for 2 years, one day something will happen and you'll need that backup. So make sure you have a backup plan. You don't have to use Contabo for this. If you're using WordPress, you can set it up within your WordPress to backup somewhere else. Even on AWS S3, you can use Backblaze. The possibilities are many. Then network, leave it as it is. Bandwidth, you'll get unlimited traffic. IP, if you need an extra IP, you can also buy it from there. And then any add-ons, if you need object storage, you can get object storage, server management. All this, just leave them at default and then enter a password. And this will be the password that you'll use to log into your server. Make sure you store it somewhere, like I've stored mine over here. And then the next step is just to make payment and create your account. Next. So if you're new to Contabo, you're going to click there on I'm new to Contabo. And you can enter your details right there. If you already have a Contabo account, click there, I'm a customer, and then log into your account. And then the next step is making payment. You can pay via PayPal, credit card, or any other available payment option. In this case, I don't need to go ahead. I already have my server, but that is how you'd go about it. So in this case, let me come back to my dashboard. I'm just going to close this. And once you get your Contabo details, you can log into your Contabo at my.contabo.com. They have a new dashboard, but I prefer to use the old one, because the new one, I saw there are a few bugs here and there, so I don't want to use it yet. Let me just stick with the old one. I don't need any features from the new one. If you enable backups, if you buy backups, you're going to have to go there, because that's where you can enable those automatic backups. So to get here, you'll just click on VPS control. There is your server. There is your server IP. You can restart, stop the server there. If you experience any problem, maybe you forget your password, you can reset your server password there. You can also set up VNC if you want to log in via VNC. Okay, so let's get on to how you host WordPress on Contabo. If you want to host WordPress on Contabo, the easiest way to do it is to use a control panel. And the control panel that I found works best on Contabo is HestiaCP. As a beginner, I just do recommend HestiaCP because it's reliable, it's very stable. Even if there are issues, they usually get resolved. It is a free control panel, open source, available on GitHub. You can check it. Another one you can use is CyberPanel, but CyberPanel is not as stable as HestiaCP. So that's why I do recommend HestiaCP. So I'm going to click there on install, and we're going to get here in a moment installing HestiaCP so that we can start hosting WordPress with it. But first thing I want to do is I want to set up my DNS. So I will be using Cloudflare. If you don't have a Cloudflare account, go ahead and create one. It's free to create your Cloudflare account. I will use this website for demonstrations, and this means I need to add my DNS records. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add my DNS records so that by the time I'm getting to the phase for installing a WordPress website, my DNS records will have propagated. So let's go to Contabo. I will copy my IP. So just come here under DNS records on Cloudflare for your domain, and then I will add a record. If you already have records there and they're not the ones that you want to use, just delete them and create new records. So the first one, let's do the A record, and I can just leave it proxied. Save. The next one I want to add is www. So I will add that as a CNAME, www. And then this will go to the main domain, and that one as well, I can just leave it proxied and save. And the next one that I want to add, if you come here in HestiaCP installation, there's this part for host name, and I can add a host name right there. So I'm going to go back, and the host name that I want to use is host name that I want to use is, let's say, something like panel. So I can just use pan, and that will be my host name. So I'll add the IP for my server and then save. And these are the bare minimum DNS records that I need right now. So I can get started with the installation. Let's go to HestiaCP. So usually when you're hosting WordPress, the contention usually is, do you use Lightspeed, Open Lightspeed, PHP, Apache, Nginx, all those? If you understand what those are, you know what I'm talking about. But if you have a small server, just host using Nginx and PHP FPM. So I'm going to unselect Apache. And I know most people usually believe that your website will run much faster on Open Lightspeed and Lightspeed Enterprise servers, but that is really not the case. I don't know where the data is for that, but it is not the case. I've been managing WordPress websites for a long time, and I have some on Lightspeed, some on Apache and Nginx, some on Nginx and PHP FPM, and I've never seen any dramatic improvement in terms of WordPress performance on Lightspeed. I don't know. I think that was a marketing thing that started a long time ago, and people just ran with it, but it's really not true. From personal experience, it's definitely not true. But you're allowed to argue with me on that, but that's just my opinion. So usually if I want to host WordPress for my use case, and I know what I'm talking about. So if you believe in me, then you can just go with Nginx and PHP FPM, right? But if you want to go more traditional, you can use Apache and Nginx. HestiaCP usually comes with Apache and Nginx. So let's forget about that part. In this case, I'm going to use Nginx and PHP FPM. If you have a situation whereby you have to use htaccess, then definitely use Apache, and Apache on Hestia will come with Nginx. So for the host name, I'm going to use pan.agolmi. That's the one I've added there. Pan dot Control V for Agolmi. That will be my host name. And then for the password, I can just use the same password. Just set up a password there. I'll just use that as my password. And then for the admin user, admin email, I can use sample. It's just a sample at sample.com. It's just a sample sample, and then the username. Now this is one of the best features I like about HestiaCP. Nowadays you can change the admin user and give it a different username. It doesn't have to be admin, so that adds some level of security for Hestia as a control panel. So here I'm going to just say admin, and you can give it any name. It doesn't have to be admin anything. I'm just going to call this admin Kwati. That would be my admin username, but you can name it whatever you prefer. Use a unique name. And for multi-PHP, you can install multiple PHP versions. Maybe you have an old WordPress that requires PHP 5.3. In this case, I'm just going to leave this unchecked, but you can always check it and type the PHP versions that you need and separate them with a comma. In this case, an example is there, 7.4, maybe you want 7.4, 8.3, 8.4. Add it there. In this case, I will uncheck that. I'll leave that. It's lightweight. I prefer that. Bind is for DNS. We're going to use Cloudflare for DNS, but I'm just going to install this as a beginner. I'm just going to install this bind so that if you need DNS records, you can just copy them from HestiaCP and add them to Cloudflare. Then MariaDB. Yes, I want to use MariaDB. If you want to run something with Postgres, you can add Postgres as well. Exim, Dovecot, I will leave this checked. Even that I can add. These are for mail. If you want to add a mail server, you can enable those. If you don't need a mail server, then just uncheck this. You don't need them. And then ClamAV, this one as well, I'll leave it checked. IP tables, make sure you leave that checked for security. Hestia is going to set up the firewall for you. Fail to ban, definitely need that. If you want to enable file system quota, definitely check that. If you're hosting for other people on the server, definitely check that. If you want an SSH terminal within HestiaCP, you can check that. So you don't need to type in SSH, you can just use the web terminal within HestiaCP. HestiaAPI, if you want to enable it, leave that checked. Interactive install, and I will force installation. So after all that, I can log into my server and install HestiaCP. So am I logged in? I'm not logged in yet. Let's SSH into the server. Come back here, copy my IP, SSH. My user is root, and that is my password. Copy, Ctrl+Shift+V, enter. So I just want to add that if you're following along on Windows, just download Git, open Git Bash, and you can follow along. You don't need to do anything special. After you open Git Bash, you can follow along freely. So the first thing, let me update my server. apt update. All packages are up to date. There's nothing to update, so that's good. Ctrl+L, and then come back to my installation script. First of all, copy that to download the installation script for HestiaCP. Ctrl+Shift+V, enter, and then copy the next line. So this is the one that comes with the options we selected down there. Copy that, Ctrl+Shift+V, enter. Very easy to install, as you can see. So just let it check through and see what it needs. And this is what it's going to install: Nginx, web server, PHP FPM, bind, Exim, Dovecot, MariaDB, VFSTP, firewall, that is IP tables plus fail to ban. So type Y to accept, enter, and just give it some time to install and add the repository for different packages. So let me pause momentarily while the installation continues. After about 5 minutes, the installation is complete and you can press to continue. And up here, you'll see that you have these details. This is the URL you can use to log into your server. And that is a backup URL with your IP, and the username is what you set up. So make sure it's something unique that is not easy to guess by bots. So choose a username that is unique, something that a bot cannot easily guess. So the password is what you select, what you chose, and you can just copy this somewhere. You never know, you might forget all these details. So just keep it somewhere and store them. And just to be sure, press enter, and this is going to reboot your server. So after restarting the server, apparently I have some updates that can be applied. So I can just do update before I log into my HestiaCP. Let me just update these ones. Update. All right, there you go. The server is updated. So let's use these details to access our Hestia install. So I can just press Control and open that on the browser. So you're seated there waiting for this to come, and I just realized there's a small mistake that I made during the installation process. So what I should have done at this stage, you see there where it says port. There are certain ports that are supported by Cloudflare, and there are certain ports that are not supported by Cloudflare. So in this case, I should have gone with something like 2083. So let's just look at supported Cloudflare ports. So you can't just use any port on Cloudflare. There are certain ports that they do support. So be aware of that. I'm going to click there on network ports. Let's look at these ports. And during the installation, make sure you use one of these ports. So HTTP ports supported by Cloudflare. These are the ports supported. And then you want to go with one of these HTTPS ports. So you can use 2053 or 2083. So in this case, let's change it to 2083. So the good thing with HestiaCP is that it has a very helpful forum and a helpful documentation. So right now, if I wanted to change the Hestia port and I don't know how to do it, all I have to do is search for HestiaCP change port. I'm sure I'm going to get a result. So let's go to the doc, server configuration. I see there's something there about the port. So you can see, can I use behind Cloudflare CDN? You can change the port. So I'm going to copy this, change the port. To change the port to 2083. Let's come back here, Control L, Control Shift V. There you go. So now if you come back, or rather, we need to change the port now here to 2083. Okay, so this means that this is a good sign. Too many redirects. This means that it is working. The port has changed successfully. Every time you see this, just know that it has something to do with Cloudflare, SSL, DNS. Let's go back to Cloudflare. I know. Don't worry. I'm going to show you. If you want to log in without all these issues, you can just use the IP and use the port that you selected. But let's go back to Cloudflare. Here, it's good to face problems, because if you face them, you need to know how you can fix them. So there we go. Let's go to SSL for the domain, and let's go to SSL overview, configure, and here let's go with full SSL and save. That usually should fix the issue. And even before I do anything, you can see it's already up just after changing that on Cloudflare. So here, every time you want to log into your server now, after changing the port, you'll use port 2083. If you don't want to go through this process of changing your port after you've installed it, all you have to do is define your port there. Okay, so select port. This is during the installation phase. Make sure you select port 2083 or 2053, one of the supported Cloudflare ports, and that way you can use Cloudflare. All right, that is that. The installation is successful. The next thing, let's log into our server. I'm going to copy the password. That's the same password I used, and that is the username for our server. That's the username for our Hestia admin user. So the user is admin Kwati. And the password. There you go. You're logged in. If you want to look at all the running services, maybe you want to restart a Hestia service, click there on the gear icon. While you're logged in as the admin user, you can restart any service here. You can see right now we only have one PHP. Maybe you decide I want to have my websites, my WordPress websites running on the latest PHP version. Just click there on configure. You're going to see web server, and you can select a PHP version to install. So let's click on PHP 8.4 and save. And that's going to run in the background installing PHP 8.4. Any PHP version you need, you can install it like that. So give it some time to run, and then we're going to create a new user whenever you want to host WordPress on HestiaCP. Make sure you're hosting it as a different user, not as the admin user. So that's the next thing, to create the user that you can use to host your WordPress websites. Right, so PHP 8.4 has been installed. So if you come back to the running services, click there, you'll see that now you also have PHP 8.4. Let's get to hosting WordPress. The first thing, create a user. Go there under users, add user, and we're just going to give it a name like sample 456. Of course, give it a name, and I can just call it sysadmin. Of course, if this is for somebody that you're sending the details to, make sure you give them the right name, generate a password there. And this doesn't really matter as long as you're the admin user, you can always log into your server. You can choose to not allow user to log into the control panel. And if you're the only one running the server, you can select that. We're going to see if you're able to log in from that user. And say that you want to give this user a different package. You can create a different package and then give to this user. And then the role, of course, is user. admin@sample.com. Right? So of course use real email addresses. For me, it's a sample. Save. There you go. Your user is ready. So if you come back here under users, click on users, you'll see now you have this user and your admin user. So I'm just going to click on it. And when you click on it, you can log in as that user. If you're the admin user, you can click any user and you'll be able to log in as them. And this actually secures your server, because now the user cannot even log into the control panel on the front end, because that's a setting you chose during the user creation process. So let's add the first WordPress website. So I'll come back here to my Cloudflare. Everything is ready. Let's come back here. Let's add a domain. Paste my domain in there. Let's just add DNS support and mail support. So even though we are using Cloudflare, the DNS records will be created for us, and we can just copy them over to Cloudflare. Save. There you go. Your domain has been added to Cloudflare. If you want to enable SSL, you can click on it, scroll down, enable SSL, use Let's Encrypt, you can enable automatic redirection. You can also enable strict protocol. Advanced options, you can enable a different template. So here under advanced options, this is important, especially if you're going to host WordPress. So just click there. You can click there and change the WordPress template, the Nginx template for your WordPress. And this is one of the reasons I love HestiaCP. It has lots of different templates you can use for different platforms. In this case, we're going to use WordPress disable XML RPC. But you can just use WordPress if you don't want to disable XML RPC. You can also enable fast CGI to cache your WordPress website. Backend template, of course, PHP 8.4. If you want to use the latest PHP version, use PHP 8.4. If you experience problems, you can go back to PHP 8.3. If you want to use an older PHP version, you now know how to install PHP. I showed you as one of the first things. Custom document root, forget about that. Additional FTP details. If you want to create FTP for this user, you can create FTP details there and save them and share them with whoever. In this case, that's all I need there. So what I need to do here, what I needed to do was to enable SSL and change the template there and also change the PHP version we're using. And then I'm going to save. So if you face any problems, it's probably due to Cloudflare. And if that happens, all I have to do is disable proxy for my domain and my SSL will be issued. If you see the green, that is a good sign. That is a great sign. Your SSL has been issued and you can go to your domain and now it's working. SSL there is working as well. So what next? You want to install WordPress, right? If you want to migrate your WordPress, you can simply move the files and then create a database there and migrate the database using phpMyAdmin. But one of the easiest ways to migrate your WordPress, even though there will be some downtime, is to take a backup of your current website, install WordPress in this domain, and then simply install the plugin that you used to back up the WordPress or the migration plugin, and then use it to import the new WordPress. That is, if you don't mind a bit of downtime. If downtime is an issue for you, then you have to do it manually. Just copy all the files to the new directory for this domain, bring in the database, change any database details on WP config, and once you're sure that everything is ready, you can change the DNS records to point to the new server. In this case, let's just install WordPress. So quick install. So if you wanted to go there, let's say you're not there, just go back to web, choose the domain, quick install, and then we are looking for WordPress. So set up WordPress. So WordPress blog, username. So make sure you save these details for logging into your WordPress. Just use your real email. Password, generate and copy, because that's what you'll use to log in. And the install directory, just leave it there at default. PHP version we've already selected for our server, but I'll just leave it there. Database, create. Yes, create a database. And for the database as well, you can add details or they will automatically get created for you. So let's click there on save, and there you go. WordPress has been installed successfully in less than 1 minute. So let's come back here, reload it, and there you go. You have WordPress installed. You can log into your WordPress /WP admin. Username WP admin 23. Enter the user, enter the password, remember me, log in. There you go. You have WordPress running on Contabo. Perhaps you want to test if you can install plugins, so go add plugins. Maybe your website is an e-commerce website, so you look for WooCommerce. Install WooCommerce, activate. You can set it up. All right, you've seen how you can install HestiaCP on Contabo and then install WordPress on HestiaCP. So if you wanted to add the other DNS records, come here under DNS. The DNS records are here, but I don't want the video to be too long. So in a separate video, I want to show you how you can import all this and just add them to Cloudflare. Import, export from here and then import into Cloudflare. You can do it just as an overview. Take a full backup and then get the DNS records and the DNS file, import it into Cloudflare DNS. I'm going to do that in the next video, but let me just do it in the next video. I don't want this video to be too long, but if you don't want to do that, you can always copy them one at a time and put into Cloudflare. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, let me know. And even before I end, let me talk about security for a minute. And I do have a video for how to do an initial server setup for Ubuntu 24.4. And I will add the link in the description below. The only thing you don't need to set up that I did in that video is firewall setup. So you can skip the firewall setup part. That's the only part I'm telling you not to work on, because HestiaCP will set up the firewall on your behalf. So that should end the video. The next one, let me just show you how you can import these DNS records into Cloudflare. If you need help setting up your server, that's something we do at Bizanosa.com. So if you go to Bizanosa.com, you need help setting up your server, or you need help managing the server, you just feel you're tired, you won't be able to do it yourself, you can come to Bizanosa, get Bizanosa Expert Care. We help you manage your Linux server. Or if you just want to secure it and keep it secure, we have one-time support service. Come here under Bizanosa one-time support. You can get one-time Linux server setup, you can get one-time small fixes, and so on. See you next time in another video.